Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the next session, and we are going to talk about becoming a benefits ninja. I'm Diana Van Blaricom. I am the Vice President of ERP Strategy here at ROI. Been with ROI for about 3 years. Some of you know me. I've been around the Infor landscape for, about 23 years now. So very long time. Joining me today is the awesome and fabulous Shawn Klein, who is one of our principal consultants on our technical team. And he's going to actually take you on a walk through some benefits administration tips, tricks, considerations, a little bit of functional, a little bit of technical, and we're going to have some fun doing that. A couple of housekeeping things. If you all want to ask a question, you can pop it right into the chat, and we'll try to pick those up along the way. We will leave a little bit of time at the end, too, for some of those. But just a quick introduction to ROI, if some of you don't know who we are. We're going to talk about eligibility made easy. These 3 topics that we have today, there's a companion blog that Shawn wrote that's sitting out on our website. And we'll show you how to get to that when we get to the end. So we're going to talk about eligibility made easy. We're going to talk about tips for managing plan changes. And then we're going to look at considerations for changes that impact payroll. Because, right, all roads lead to payroll. So let's get right into it. Just a couple of quick things about ROI. We were the 2020 Growth Partner of the Year. We've been an Infor partner and in the Infor landscape since 1999. And we've got 3 real pillars to our organization. We have our Infor ERP practice where we're doing, CloudSuite implementations. We're doing both FSM and HCM and payroll. And we're also doing some support for the folks that are on version 10. Happy to help you out with any road mapping and questions that you might have. If you haven't moved to CloudSuite already, or if you're there and you want to take your next steps, we can certainly help you with that. We also have a side of our organization that supports the information systems, the clinical side of things, right? So Epic, Cerner, and Meditech, and some of the long-term support pieces. And then the resource group, where we're helping organizations that need folks to staff those types of roles. A couple of things about us at the bottom. We are very happy to announce that yesterday we were named Best Places to Work for 2021. So we've got that now as well. And just some of the accolades that we've got at the bottom on the logos there. What we're very proud of is our class rankings in partial IT outsourcing and business solution implementation services. Really enjoy working with our clients and being a true partner for them as they make this journey with their technologies. So with that, I am going to let Shawn take over, and we are going to talk about becoming a benefits ninja. Hang on to the end because I'm going to show you how to get to his blog and a lot of great other information when we get to the end. And then we'll, again, take Q&A. We'll try to capture some of those as we go along the way. And additionally, we'll save some time at the end if anybody's got some more involved questions. Shawn, do you want to, I'm going to stop sharing. You can log in and take it away.
Thank you, Diana. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Is it loading?
Yep, it's coming up.
All right.
Almost there. Close your Teams and.
Yeah.
All right. We've got one little tile on the screen, so I don't know on what screen you're on, but it looks like it's coming up.
All right, cool.
All right, and I'm going to go off camera, so I'll just be in the background fielding questions for you. Have fun.
Thanks. All right, guys. As Diana mentioned, there's 3 blog posts out there around benefits. The first one being around eligibility. The second one around day-to-day jobs that you would run either every day or once a week or before payroll. And then the last blog post is about the running GTL and any of the payroll specific exports that you would run right before payroll, like the deduction export. So if you're looking at my screen, we'll kind of get the lay of the land before we dive right in. What you're seeing here is the multi-tenant. This is ROI's demo environment. This is the home page. So up here on the top left is what's called the waffle. And the way you bounce over to GHRs, you click on the waffle, you click on Infor Global HR. And if you're not familiar with the multi-tenant environment or this version of Mingle, you'll notice that it's quite sleek compared to previous versions or older versions of Mingle. So it's something to look forward to as you think about upgrading and as you navigate down the upgrade path. So this is the employee view of GHR. So if we use the role toggle here, if you hit the drop down, it displays all of the security roles that are assigned to you. So all of these are managed by security and your security team. So if you see administrator here, for example, you have the admin_ST role. The same thing with employee. This is employee under ST, and then benefits. So I'm a benefits admin in our environment. So I have the benefits admin_ST security role assigned to me. So which allows me to see this menu item. So if we click over here, the first thing we're going to talk about is eligibility and how eligibility is established and maintained in the benefits module. It's established by, and if you've ever set up benefits in GHR or even S3, you know that it's driven by custom groups and benefit groups. And those custom groups are built on the employee work assignment. So in the benefits module, the way you navigate to your custom group setup is under benefits, like I said, setup, and then there's this additional item here for groups. So if you expand that down, you have your custom groups and your benefit groups. So the first place we're going to drop into is this benefit groups here. So this shows all of the benefit groups that we've defined in our environment. This is just the name of the benefit group, and you see these three areas off to the right. You have work assignment group, retiree group, and COBRA group. So the work assignment group are those benefit groups that are built on the employee work assignment. The retiree group is a group of benefit groups that are built on the employee business class. So this is work assignment business class. This is the employee business class. So if you have benefits that are for a retiree group only, this is where you define those benefit groups. And then the COBRA participant group is a benefit group that uses the participant business class to build out the custom groups. So here you have work assignment, employee, participant. So let's click into this full-time benefits group here. So you can't actually double click on this record and it doesn't bring up another screen. If you just click on it, it activates this window down below. It'll show you all of the resources that are assigned to that group. So the way we define this custom group, these employees become eligible for this group. So we can see how this work assignment group is defined by what I do is just click on that, copy it, and then bounce over to this custom group area and hit your search box there and click into it. There we go. And you see our condition, how we have this set up. So employee business class dot relationship status equals active part-time, employee dot relationship to org equals employee, org hard-coded to 1. And this is one of the first things I wanted to talk about. So when you're building out custom groups for benefits, one of the things to really consider and to try to steer clear of is hard-coding these employee numbers in here. So what you've seen me do this, so it's actually a very bad idea, and try to steer clear about, from hard coding these employees in there. I've come across clients that have a couple custom groups where, there's 500 hard coded employees in there. That is kind of a no-no, and it has detrimental effects on your async jobs that run in the background. So if you're a client that has, a long-running mass create eligibility job or a mass enroll in default plans job or even a resource updates job that's running forever. I've seen it run for over 24 hours in some cases. And the first thing that I do is I come in here to these, I first look at their benefit plans to see what benefit groups are assigned to them. And then I'll bounce over to those related custom groups and see how they're defined. And if there's, a bunch of employee numbers hard-coded in there, that's going to make for long run times on those jobs. Because if you think about how those jobs are running, the way that it works is, the mass create eligibility job kicks off, and it literally goes through all the employees in your organization and compares them to this custom group. And if you have a very long-winded group or very complex group, it's going to take forever to evaluate each employee. So keep that in mind. The other thing about benefit groups and custom groups is when you're defining your plans. Let's go into this health plan. There's several areas in here where you have to assign benefit groups to. Okay, on the eligible tab, there's a section, there's a field in here for the main eligibility group for the benefit plan. So this is that full-time benefits group that we just got done looking at. So that allows the employee to have access to the plan, but it doesn't necessarily allow them to enroll in benefits. What allows them to enroll are what's defined on these entry rules. So if you click on these entry rules, a lot of times, if you're using GHR benefits, you'll see a benefit group assigned to your entry rules, and that's not entirely necessary, especially if all of your employees are going to use the same entry rule. So if all of your employees in your organization are going to be eligible to enroll in this health plan, 30 first of the month after 30 days of employment, for example, you do not need to have a benefit group assigned to your waiting period entry rule. So you can just leave it blank. I don't have the first 30 days logic in here, but I'm saying the first of the month, once they become eligible, they can enroll in this plan. And the same logic applies to the change rule. You don't need if all of your employees are going to use the same change rule, you don't need a benefit group assigned to it. There's some confusion also around term rules. Typically, all of your employees are going to have this or use the same term rule, like it's going to term on their termination effective date, or it's going to term the last day of the month, for example. If that's the case, then you don't need a benefit group assigned to it. One mistake I see clients make as well is their benefit group that they actually assign to their term rule only contains active employees, and ultimately this term rule will only affect terminated employees. So if this term rule only applies to active employees, the term rule is never going to fire if your benefit group doesn't actually include the terminated group of employees. Not including the benefit group on coverage and contributions, you can't do that. Those are required fields on those. So you can leave term rules, entry rules blank, but you have to apply them to the coverage and contribution. All right, so bouncing back over to these benefit groups. So if you saw how this full-time benefits group is applied to to the health plan. You also see this field over here called async action check membership, and it's set to dynamic. There's two settings for these benefit groups. You can say dynamic or saved. And dynamic, what that means is throughout the day, as your HR admins are transferring people, hiring people, adjusting pay rates or employee statuses, This dynamic check membership is evaluating in the background. It's adding, removing employees from benefit groups as necessary. And the saved is doesn't do that. So it waits to a certain, it'll wait until you actually kick off the evaluate eligibility job, which is an async job that you can run in a scheduled manner. So if you have a lot of employees, for example, or you have very complex benefit groups, you might want to maybe think about using the saved check membership, especially if you have system performance issues. It could cause, having this async check membership set to dynamic in complex benefit group scenarios could cause some system performance issues. And then leaving it to save will allow you to actually schedule when these benefit groups get refreshed. All right. So now that we kind of understand the foundation of how benefit plans are built on top of benefit groups and custom groups, the day-to-day processing after you've all your plans are set up, the day-to-day processing can be essentially summarized in 4 jobs that you run. So those 4 jobs that I'm referring to are under benefits, maintenance, and processes. So, and they're right at the top: mass create eligibility, mass enroll in default plans, resource updates, and benefit plan updates. The mass create eligibility, if you click on that, it takes you to this list of errors. So the list of, I don't have any, but this list will contain any eligibility errors that come up when you run this job. And what this job does is it evaluates all of your benefit groups to your work assignment changes and determines when an employee can have eligibility records established. So if they become eligible for a plan the first of the month after 30 days of employment, when you fire this mass create eligibility, it's going to assign an eligibility record starting 7/1 in this case. One important note about this job is that if you have errors in this listing, it will not evaluate that any employees in this listing for eligibility until you clear out the error. So you went into that employee's resource record or work assignment record, handled whatever error message came up here. You need to actually come in here and delete that record, or there's a mass job you can run as well. If you click on these 3 horizontal buttons here, that's not under there. It's probably not showing because I don't have any error messages. So if you have error messages, there's a job that comes up here that says delete report. If you run that delete report job, it's a mass job that'll remove all of these errors for you. But if you're just targeting a single employee, you can just click on the errors and hit the trash can. To run this job, you click on this create report. And it's, to me, I think it's a little confusing just because it says create report and it doesn't make you think that you're actually running a job, but you are. So if you click on create report, it pops up with this form. And this is a classic async job form where you have the cancel, schedule, and submit at the bottom. So we're going to run for as of date of today. So if you're running through the current date, you can just leave it blank. You don't have to press the T to populate the current date or anything, just leave it blank. And we're going to run this job, and we're going to run it for, let's do employee life and health. Um, you can run this job by benefit type like I'm doing here, or you can actually come in here and select the individual plans. Say if you just want to run for one specific plan, you can target that. So I'm just going to hit submit on this. So what happened in the background here is, if I open up another tab, if I can get there in time, and you bounce over to your async administrator and async overview, and click on the processing viewer. That's done already. But what you'll see here in the active queue is the mass create eligibility job running. And when I've maintained benefits in the past, I found it extremely helpful to have access to this async administrator, just so when I click off these jobs, I can kind of monitor it for any failed statuses or just when it finishes, so I know to come back over here, click refresh report to see if there's any errors I need to deal with. So I would feel handicapped if I didn't have this async administrator. All right. Mass enroll and default plans. So you definitely want to run the mass create eligibility job like we did before you run the mass enroll and default plans, because this is going to create the eligibility records that this mass enroll and default plans job is going to use to enroll. So if we click on that, we actually have some enrollment errors in here. Waiting period entry rule does not exist for benefit plan. Okay, so this entry rule probably needs some work. So this is the same logic as the mass create eligibility job. If you have errors in this listing, they need to be dealt with before you rerun the create report. So you deal with the error, come in here, delete, and there's that delete report I was talking about. The mass create eligibility job has this same report. So when you deal with all the errors, you can click on delete report, and you can just leave it blank if you're going to delete for everybody and just hit submit. And that's a classic async job form that kicks off an async job. And it could be so fast that it already fired and is done. So if we hit refresh over here, sure enough, they're gone. All right. Resource updates. So that's the next step in the journey. So resource updates are a listing and a report that will show you all of the pending updates for an employee. So these pending updates will include when an employee has a birthday, pay rate change, termination, pretty much anything affecting their record will show up on here on these reports, and ask you to accept the change into the resources benefit plans. So your HR administrators, perform the transfers, pay rate adjustments, and then you run the resource update job to then bring in those changes to the benefit module, and then your listings here are populated with those changes to then accept. I think Infor built it that way as a feature because usually HR departments that are performing the changes are different than your benefit departments to accept the changes. So just having that two-step process to validate any changes to your employee benefits is important, I would say. So to run this report, you can see I have some errors in there right now. I'm not going to touch those for now. I'm going to run the report. Pops up with the async job form again. I'm going to run for employee life and health again. And then I ask you to select, okay, what do you want to look for in the employee records? Okay, we're going to look at our term rules. So any terminated employees that need to have benefits end dated, it'll force you to put in a reason code. So I'm going to say termination, I'm going to select all of these as well. And I'll just put in this changes reason. All right. And then just hit submit. Same thing. There's a job that'll kick off over here. There you go. You see it fire up in the queued status. Job becomes active. And you see it pops in and out fairly quickly. And it's done. Now I know to come back over here, click refresh on my resource updates to see any changes. I just ran this yesterday, so that's probably not going to see any more changes. These are some common errors that you'll see. Must enter a stop date. A lot of times this will come in when, let's say, benefit plans are new to an organization and they don't have end dates on the benefit plans. So what's happening here is, say, Brittany Jones, she has an eligibility record that doesn't have a stop date. So what happened was when that mass create eligibility job ran, it created the eligibility records without a stop date because the employee supplemental life benefit plan, go over here, employee, I added an end date, but I added this yesterday, but what was there previously is that it didn't have an end date. So when, when that mass create eligibility job ran, it didn't find an end date and then didn't put an end date on those eligibility records. So what the benefit module expects is this end date to be adjustable. So if, say, you have your benefit, your plan year is January 1st to January 1st. So for 1/1/18, I would plug in 1/1/2019, hit save on that, and then when this when the mass create eligibility job ran for this plan year, it would plug in a 1/1/19 end date on all those eligibility records for that year, and then you would just adjust this to the 2020 end date. And when that eligibility job ran for 2020, it'd create new eligibility records with end dates for all of your employees. All right, let's go back to resource updates. And I thought I had another error in here. Yeah, here we go. So I had the must enter stop date. This is another common error that you see. Never eligible for plan. Stop date cannot be determined. What happened here is that Ann Morris was eligible for this plan at one time. She had an eligibility record created, and then the custom group associated with the main benefit group of the plan was changed without first end dating or stopping that eligibility record. So, and now the benefits module thinks that Ann Morris was never actually eligible for this plan, and it's given this error, never eligible for the plan, even though she has this eligibility record out here. So the way I've gotten rid of these in the past is I just removed the benefit group off the entry rule, and then you're able to put a stop on those eligibility records, and then come in here and delete these errors. There's should be one, there we go, one record that is pending out here that's legitimate. I gave Charlie a pay rate change that is pending out here. So you can see what this record is telling us is that the benefit module sees that this pay rate has been changed, but it hasn't actually changed any benefits yet. To change the benefits, we have to right click and say process change. And yeah, in a properly configured environment, what would happen is this would disappear into another tab called Processed. And at that point, all of the benefits for that, the Blue Cross Blue Shield benefit for Charlie would change with the new pay rate. All right, plan updates. So I included this in the listing of jobs that need to be ran periodically. This one less periodically than the three above it. This job only needs to be ran when there's an actual adjustment to the contribution or coverage of a plan. So let's trigger one off here. So if we go into our health plan and say we want to change the contribution cost. So I'm going to change this to 1,200. You hit save on that. What should happen is under your benefit plan updates, didn't trigger. Let's do a different plan. I play with that plan quite a bit. Let's do dental. Let's change processes, benefit plan updates. There we go. So I adjusted the pre-tax for the dental plan for the employee only to 52, and you can see that it fired off a benefit plan update. The other plan probably didn't fire one, probably because I didn't have any employees actually enrolled in the plan. This benefit plan actually has enrollments, so when I clicked to change that pre-tax amount, it found the enrollments that need to adjust, and now you have this record in here to remind you to run this benefit plan update. So to actually adjust any of the enrollments that are affected by this change, you hit this common, you've seen this before, the create report. Brings up this async job, employee life, health, and let's do dental. Actually, I'm going to run, let's run just for that dental 2 plan. There you go. I'm going to update immediately, skip that. I'm going to run through today's date and hit submit. It fires off another async job. It's probably already done. And now when I go back into the benefit plan updates, you can see that update that was pending for the dental plan is gone. So any of the enrollments have been adjusted. All right. So that covers all of the common processes, day-to-day processes. Let's jump over to our pre-payroll tasks.
Shawn, we've got one question coming in from Jackie.
Okay.
Is it recommended to create new coverage and contribution groups for each plan year, each year, for example, for open enrollment, even if there are no changes occurring?
Yes, you do want to do that. Yes, even if there's no adjustments, I do create new ones.
Yeah, and I think that keeps it clean too when you understand the architecture of CloudSuite, right? Where we've got that effective dating,
Yes.
Right? It really keeps all the dates in alignment for any of the transactions that would happen.
Yeah, and it tees off any potential changes throughout the year too. So if you have, mid-year for whatever reason, you have to adjust the pre-tax amount, you can actually go into that that group that's actually for your plan year and adjust it there instead of going back from the beginning and changing it there. So it kind of keeps the history.
Keeps it easier to manage too, I have to believe.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Jackie. Great question. Just a reminder, if anybody wants to ask Shawn a question, you can just pop them in to the chat and we'll relay them. Rima's got a question here. She says, we use S3. Are they still able to create termination rules using personal action codes under the term rule setup? And the answer to that is yes. I believe it's BN, 16.1, 16.2, 16.3. If you look at your add, change, and terminate rules, you should be able to define those term rules to help with some of that administration. See, I still remember. It's been a long time, but I still remember.
Yeah.
You can take the girl out of payroll, but you can't take payroll out of the girl. All right, let's talk about payroll.
All right.
You're welcome, Rima. Yeah, let's talk about the pre-payroll processing. We've got about 10, 15 minutes left. So I want to leave a little bit of time for some more questions. But again, roads lead to payroll, right? So what do we need to consider as we're getting ready to process our payroll, Shawn?
All right. So I'm going to cover the GTL and benefit exports quickly because there's one last thing I want to cover that's kind of new with the CU that came down a couple months ago. So that isn't included in these benefit blocks. So GTL. So under your benefits module, if you click on maintenance processes where we were and click on life insurance reportable income, this will show you the listing of all the previous the calculations for the previous run. So I ran this yesterday for this one employee, and you see that I have this one record in here. Before you run your GTL, it's important that you've done all of the processing that we've done previously. You've created the eligibility, you enrolled in default plans, because most likely your default plan is going to feed into your basic life reportable income. And you process, this is really important, that you process all the resource updates. You accepted all of the date of birth changes, or not date of birth changes, that's not going to change, but all the birth dates and pay rate changes for all the employees. Then you can come in here, do your group term life, click on create report. I'm just going to click on put in today, cost period, put in pay period, employee life, use your pre-tax amounts. One thing I don't do when I run this job, and I would recommend, especially if you're new to this process, is leave this time records unchecked. Just because if you have to come in here and rerun GTL for whatever reason, it saves you some cleanup to having to go in and delete time records out of the system in order to rerun GTL. So I'm going to hit submit on this. Clicks off an async job. There it goes. It's performing some fancy calculations in the background. All right, we don't have to wait on it. So that's processing. When that's done, you come in here, you could do some manual calculations just to make sure the system processed the calculation correctly. Once you're satisfied with all the records, you can come over here to create time records. So this is that job. If you clicked on that checkbox as part of the create report, this is what is ran in tandem with that calculation. So I'm going to say time records through today, employee pay code of, I don't know, let's just do, it'll be your GTL pay code, not your regular, but pretend that's a GTL, hit submit. It runs another async job and creates time records. So where it creates time records is if you change your role over to time administrator, and if you click on time entry, time records, um, most likely your system is set up to put them in an approved status, and you can see 2 records in here. One's from yesterday, one's today, for my employee. So to send these then over to S3 for PR530 to pick up, you simply come in here, time administrator, interface, export records, and you click on time record interface. You say, I want to select all my approved records, run interface immediately, hit submit, kicks off yet another async job. And what's unique about this async job is that it also kicks off an IPA flow that grabs all the records that have been selected as part of that job run and puts them in a CSV and FTPs them over to your CloudSuite endpoint, where you can then grab the CSV manually and put it into your S3 system, or you can have, an automated process to pick it up for you and feed it into PR530. Okay, that's the time, that's GTL overview. Let's go back over to benefits. Okay, your GTLs, this is good, and now you want to export your deduction records. Come over here to benefits, utilities, interface. I clicked on something. Nope. Utilities, interface, export records, and standard deductions. So standard deductions tab will show you where all of the pending records are to be processed. You can see I have these 2 in here. You can kind of do a cursory look out here, this listing, to see if you see what you're expecting to see. There's also an older interface that some clients are still running that doesn't give you this run history tab or this create deduction load export. The older interface actually writes records directly on the PR14. This newer deduction load export actually kicks off an async job in the background, fires up an IPA flow, creates a CSV just like the time record export did, and drops it into your SFTP endpoint for a feed into PR514 instead of writing to PR14 directly. And to kick off that job, to create that CSV, there's this create deduction load export. And if you're trying to load, if you're running for the current records that you see on the not processed, you'd want to leave this prior run blank and just hit submit. If you're running for a prior run, say the CSV file was lost by IT for some reason, you can come in here and click on the export you would want to rerun for, hit OK, and hit submit. Fires off the async job, and then kicks off the IPA flow that creates a CSV. One thing that's new from the CU that came out a couple months ago is a new way of actually creating these exports. So if we hit this drop down, and you'll see this new feature in here called Integration Architect. So if you click on that, you see these options in here. You might have seen this file creation utility under the administrator role, and it's still there. But it's a way to create CSV files in an automated way, and you can schedule these CSV creations. So if we click on this Info Integrations and click on the dashboard, I haven't set up all of the interfaces in here, so that's why it's showing unhealthy. But I did set up a couple for benefits. I set up this employee deduction one. So if you click into this setup, click on the file creation, you can see that it's looking at the employee deduction export. You can see you can give it a file name, give it a date timestamp. You give it some more attributes in here. Your delimiter, you can say, I want to kick off this IPA flow, and this is a delivered IPA flow that's new with that new CU. You can say non-encrypted or encrypted. So if you're bouncing to a S3 system that's you want to encrypt it for some reason, you can change that to HRM encrypted export. Say include all export records, and you have your mapping in here. You have the header record, and then your data field names. Preview records, all records I ran for yesterday. So you can see when I ran it for yesterday, it put all these in a process status, and then you can actually see previous files that were created, which gives you a nice history. You can click right into it and see, copy that and put it right into a pad. I will do some analysis on those records. And this Infor integration, it's going to be more of a thing as the year goes on. It's set up to handle all of the employee core exports, job, position, employee records, dependents. It's set up to handle the deduction export, the standard time deduction export that we covered, including management, payouts, everything. So you can come in here, set up that CSV across the board.
Yeah, and Shawn, I think that's an important thing to note is that Infor is actually changing the protocols for how we export data and send it anywhere, really, going out to S3 or other solutions through this integration architect. So if you haven't checked it out, be sure that you're staying up on those updates that are coming out, those customer updates. Hopefully everybody knows about docs.infor.com, where you can read the content of each of those monthly updates. You don't have to log into Concierge. You can go grab it there pretty easily from any web browser. So good, fantastic information. All right. Any other questions? Don't forget to pop them into the chat. Shawn, thanks for the overview. Any other words of wisdom that you can impart?
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
Yeah,
you're on your own.
Thanks for the overview. That was awesome. I put it in the chat, so I won't bore you to death with one more slide, but a couple things. You can read Shawn's blogs. I'm going to get back on camera here for a second. You can read Shawn's blogs out on our website. So if you navigate out to roihs.com and you click on Insights and then check out the blogs and other thought leadership, I've put the links in the little chat box right there for you. But we've got that information out there. We're doing a couple fun segments where we're, talking to some of the consultants on our team and letting them share and impart their wisdom. We've got two segments. One is called Couch Conversations, where we're just chit-chatting. The other one is really just in the know. So we're chatting and sharing and really kind of dialoguing and having a lot of fun. Imparting, stories and wisdom, talking about different features of Infor in the industry. So good stuff there as well. And again, if you want to get a hold of Shawn, I'm going to give up his email address real quick. I think Danielle just put your blog link in the chat, but it's shawn.klein@roihs.com. You can always reach me at dvb@roihs.com. And again, if you want to click out on the website, you can reach us there as well. Thanks for letting us share a little bit of Shawn today. Great stuff, good stuff. If you haven't moved to CloudSuite, we can certainly help you plan to do that and get you there. We've been just doing some really cool stuff with these applications. I know we're working with some clients and we're even, seeing some fun things with Coleman, the digital assistant, and the mobile app, of course, which is great. It really is a game changer for how people perform work. We're going to be all walking around with these things in our hands, right? Doing everything from here. So thanks again, Shawn, for spending time with us and imparting your wisdom. And for everybody on the line, if you need anything, just reach out to us. But thanks for letting us come on and spend the hour with you. Yeah, Have a great rest of your day.